Lights, camera, action. Let's start the show. Here's a little bit of wedding advice from me, your content creator, to help your story unfold. This is your wedding series, and we're in episode 13. We are going to be having a very interesting topic today because it's a time for you to sit down and get very serious about this marriage thing, okay? The Q&A questions to be going over as a couple during the dating for marriage phase just before he proposes. So the episodes leading up to this, we talked more about during the dating for marriage phase. We talked about before you even get to that age of dating, when it's like 14-year-old you. And so today we're definitely going to be discussing things that you can talk about with your actual counselor. Now, I know that everybody doesn't want to have a counselor or have somebody else in their circle, like a mentor or even like a couple that's there to help keep them both accountable. But it is important, and I do still suggest that for all phases of your relationship. Now, you don't have to take my advice, you don't have to do any of this, but it is some questions that we asked during our dating for marriage phase that did help when it came to moving forward in the relationship, okay? So these are going to be some really good 7 strong questions. We did have another Q&A session in episode 12, so if you do like the Q&A style, be sure to also be looking at episode 12. And if you have questions, let's discuss it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how things are going for you in your dating for marriage phase. Are there questions that I did not think about that you think should be on this list for literally just right before you are going to have this proposal? A lot of times you can feel that it's coming, even if it is a surprise. You just know. You just know, okay? You can feel it. You don't know what day and time and how, but you just know. This is talking about the bride-to-be. With the groom, you pretty much, you know. Hopefully by this phase of your relationship, you have a good grasp on, okay, it's time. All right, so let's get into these questions. Question number 1. How much input do you want from each other while planning the marriage proposal? So before you even get engaged, before he even proposes, how much input does each of you want to have in the planning of the proposal itself? So men, are you okay with her proposing to you? I don't suggest it. That is not my advice here. That is not my advice. Just no. But that may be where you guys are. And so, are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that? It's important that you guys talk about that now, okay? Because if she proposes to you and men, that's not what you visioned for your relationship, then that's going to get really, really awkward on the day that she does that. So, and ladies, how much input do you want in the proposal itself? Do you want a planned proposal, meaning the day, the time, where, what you're going to wear. You want your nails and hair to be perfect. You want all your family and friends there. Whatever it might be, are you the type of person that's okay, I need to plan it out. I need to have full control over what's going to happen here. So that's something for you guys to sit down and discuss. Or are you both okay with the bride to be being completely surprised, which is how we did it? Okay, we had a surprise proposal, and that's my favorite kind of proposals. I don't like whenever it's staged to be a surprise, and you can tell the bride knew the whole time. Those are not fun for me to watch, and I think it's so sad to make your life a lie. So, yeah, just right now with that question, sit down, be honest with what you guys want to do for the proposal. It's gonna happen at some point, so it's good to go ahead and discuss what you prefer for that to look like, right? So Yeah, ours, oh my gosh, it was a total surprise. It was so amazing. It was so beautiful. In my favorite place. Oh my gosh, in the city, and oh my goodness, it was absolutely gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous. I knew nothing. I knew nothing. And so it was just really great. And we had just came back from my really good pal's wedding in New York City. And so I was a bridesmaids in that wedding. And so it was just like it just felt like so the perfect timing. Like literally a week later, it's like, oh my gosh, and my good pal had also gotten proposed to like right after they had been at a wedding, or they were at a wedding, I think. And it was like a wedding they had to travel to. And I believe like during that time, or like right after, when they stayed an extra day or two, he proposed to her. So yeah, I love surprise proposals, and to me, they are literally the absolute best. Number two, speak up about your dream wedding, like details. Okay, so if you have some details that you want to incorporate into the wedding itself, speak up now. If you have like this idea of like this dream wedding, and it involves like horse and carriages, and that man is sitting there like, I can't afford that, I can't do that, maybe he's gonna like wait to propose to you because he doesn't feel adequate, he doesn't feel like financially he's where he wants to be in order to propose to you. He feels like, okay, she wants the world on, you know, a platter, eating out of a golden fork and spoon, and like I can't afford that for her. I can't do that for her. So, like I said, it's important that you guys sit down and talk about and speak up right now. Speak up right now. Ladies, you know you've been thinking about that dream day, okay? Not all of you, I get it, but a majority of you have. And so you have been thinking about what it is that you really, really want. You know, maybe your dream wedding is that you really wanted like every single family member to be there, and maybe they couldn't financially like afford that. So, you know, speak up, because maybe he can help to get those people there. You just never know. So, yeah. Number three, how much input do you want from each other while planning the wedding? So before we were talking about while planning the engagement, the proposal, how much input do you want from each other while planning the actual wedding? This is important too, because maybe he's so excited and like he can't wait to be a part of the wedding process as well. Like he's working on the house thing, right? Because remember we talked about that's who's focused on the house during the engagement portion of your marriage. Like he was already preparing for it since he was 14. So so yeah, and him and his dad and grandpa and stuff were all figuring these things out. And so, yeah, but maybe he wanted to plan some of the wedding. Maybe like he knew he wanted a chocolate groom's cake, and like you were like, no, we're just gonna have the traditional white wedding cake, and there's no need to have your cake because maybe you don't eat chocolate, so you never thought about it. Well, like, don't leave him out. If he really wants to be a part of it, like, don't leave him out. It's his day too. And like the thing that I see the most for weddings is that people leave the groom out completely, as if like it's not even his day. Even all the advertisement, everything I see from vendors, wedding vendors, it's always like her, whatever she wants. And men, you need to talk up. You need to talk about what you want too. Like you should have some form of like ideas going around in your head. Like I don't think that it's okay that it's just like you just get dragged around like a leash, you know, and like told like where to stand, what to do, what to wear, and how to look, you know, and what to say. I don't think that that's a good thing. So both of you are getting married to each other. So it's important that both of you have a say in the wedding planning process. That's my advice. So me and my hubby, we during the wedding planning process, we both sat down and we both picked out colors. We both picked out the theme, the DJ, the music list. But the thing is, he wanted to. He asked. He like wanted to be a part of it. And it was not even it was a no-brainer for me because like we make decisions together all the time, and it's a journey together. You're a couple, you're doing life together. It's not all just on one person to make all these massive, huge, ginormous decisions. So we had so much fun with it. I remember that every time we got to something like as far as the wedding party, it kept being like the same. Like I wanted two maid of honors and two bridesmaids. I just couldn't pick like one maid of honor, and it's so wild. Like literally at the time, my groom to be, now he's my hubby, he like wanted two best men and two groomsmen. Oh my gosh, it worked out so good. And like also like we are like pretty like diverse, and so was our bridal party. So like our friends also represented like who we are, like our bestest closest friends in the world also represent like us. And so it was just really, really beautiful. It was just really, really special. And what else? Oh, we had two officiants. One read certain things and one did other things that were important to us during the vows and everything. And so they just both were such a big impact on our life and part of our mentorship. And we could not decide. And so we were just like, we're just going to ask both of them. And they were fine with that. The other thing that we had two of is that we had two trumpet players. So two people who play the trumpets, and one of them, their last name was actually Trumpet. So Mrs. Trumpet was playing the trumpet at our wedding. And so, yeah, it was just really amazing. It's really cool. And that's why I said it's important that you talk about this question even before, okay, even before he proposes. Just so like you both have an idea of like what to expect. What scares you the most about wedding planning? What are you looking forward to most while wedding planning? These are two great questions. What scares you the most about wedding planning? It's an important question to ask because maybe it's money. Maybe you guys need to talk about it like right now. If you were doing episodes 1 through 12, that definitely should not be one of the main things. You already have a grasp on who's taking care of like the biggest thing, which is ceremony and reception and the house to where you're going to live afterwards. You already know that. You know who's taking care of the like smaller things like the gowns, the shoes, the dress, things like that. You already know about that as well. And so this one, like money should not scare you. And please take the time to watch episodes 1 through 12. They are so good. There's such good advice on how you can start preparing for marriage at even age 14, especially in the finances, when it comes to finances. So let's see, what's the other big one that scares people the most about planning a wedding? Oh, I remember listening to a lot of brides talk about the date that they just wanted to be married. They just wanted to be married, and all these venues are like, oh, we don't have anything for a year out, for 2 years out. Why are you waiting on the venue? We're going to talk more about that in a dedicated episode when we talk about shopping for the venue and what it was like for us to shop for ours as well. And so just know that like it's your day, and you don't need to be giving these venues like so much like authority and say into like what you decide to do for your wedding date, right? Like I don't know, like I remember also seeing a amazing bride in the UK, and they said if you don't get married in a church or at the courthouse, like they don't even consider those weddings there. So all these people that want to be at these fancy venues and in the park and all this stuff, they're like, what is this? Like, what is this? Like that's literally how they look at it. And like there's some interesting views on all of that. Like I don't know if I completely follow with that, but I do think that that's an interesting take on the wedding planning process itself, is like the venue. And like that does scare people, like, oh, what if they don't have our date? Well, move on. You know what I mean? There's so many places to have a wedding, and we are going to discuss that too, because not everybody wants a fancy wedding venue, and not everybody can afford a fancy wedding venue. you guys, they are really taking us for a ride financially with those places, and you don't even get really all that you should get with them. Like, it's just the bare bones minimal, and like you could do that yourself in your backyard. So what are you most looking forward to when it comes to planning a wedding? Ladies, I know you're looking forward to, the dress shopping, you're looking forward to venue shopping, picking out that fairy tale place. I know that I was. Those things really excited me, but obviously the biggest one for us was that as a couple, we finally will get to live together, do life together, and love on each other and cherish each other for the rest of our lives. And that was one of the most amazing part about the wedding planning process, is that like we were one day closer each and every time that we sat down and like talked about the next step in the wedding planning process. So super cool. I know the men are probably excited about like food tasting, and also the like cake, the dessert tastings and stuff like that. For both of you are probably very, very excited to get to like do that, and it is exciting. That is really, really fun. And so yeah, so there's that. The decorations, getting to do some of the DIYs. It's a lot of work, but it's also something to be like really exciting in the wedding planning process. And then for us, we definitely were excited about the honeymoon. We couldn't wait to get to the honeymoon. So amazing. So amazing. Just could not wait. Just couldn't wait. So yeah, you guys sit down and you think about, what's exciting you the most about that. All right, let's go into this question. Number 5. Did you research wedding costs before becoming a couple, or while you were in the dating for marriage phase? All right. So this is something that we did suggest earlier. I did talk about earlier that it was important that you sat down with yourself, even as a couple or individually, and well before you were in the dating for marriage phase, you could have been sitting down looking at cost, okay? Because things obviously were going to go up and change by the time you get married, but it was important to still go ahead and like just start getting a feel for like, if you are going to do a wedding venue, what do they cost? If you are going to have your family members make all the food, how much does that cost? How much is a big bag of rice or whatever you're going to have. I don't know what you're going to have, chicken, like whatever. And so it was important to do this part prior, so that by the time you got to now, you're sitting down with this counselor, this mentorship and everything, and like he's going to propose any day, you're not all like both like, you two aren't like super shocked at the prices once we get to the like, okay, he proposes, now what? And you're like freaking out because everything is so sky high and it's not going down. So the reason why you're looking at costs was so that you could be preparing not just mentally but financially for what's going to happen, because there's more things to pay for than just the wedding ceremony and the wedding reception and the gown and shoes. Okay, there's more. Unless you're going to elope, then obviously your cost is going to be extremely low. And maybe we'll do a series on just elopement after we do this series. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if that's what you guys want to hear about. All right, how to plan for that. Number 6, have you established a wedding budget? Guys, this is so important. This is so important. He hasn't proposed yet, so it's like, why do I need to establish a budget? Why do I even need to be thinking about all these costs that you're talking about? It's because if you feel like he should be giving you $1 million wedding, and in his head the budget is $2,000, you guys are going to have a big problem. That's going to be very hard to figure out once you're already engaged. Okay? Once you're already there, then it's going to be a lot of fighting, a lot of upsetness. But if you start talking about some of these things now, it's like you guys can get on the same page. You can get on the same page. Okay? We definitely discussed our budget. We definitely talked about not going over it. We definitely talked about like things that were just unnecessary that like we were like, no, we just don't need that. So that when we got to said things, we were like, it's okay. We don't need that. One of the biggest things for us was that we waited and waited and waited, and we'll discuss this at another time too when we get to that portion of the wedding planning journey, during the engagement and stuff. And we had talked about we didn't want to throw our own engagement party like ourselves. We really felt like everybody kept asking us when the engagement party was, and we would just get like really quiet, like we just don't know. And it was because we didn't want to throw that ourselves. We financially couldn't afford it at the time. And we just really believe that like family or friends or like church members should be the one to like throw that engagement party. And they didn't. Nobody ever did. So we know that we see a lot of couples out here just going forward and doing their own engagement party, and like it just doesn't give that same vibe as when somebody else does it for you and like puts it on for you. And it could be simple. It doesn't have to be so over the top. You don't have to invite everybody in the world, but it just feels like when you do it yourself, it just doesn't have that same excitement. All right, bride to be, do you know the wedding cost you will have? So these are things that just the bride to be will have, and groom to be, do you know the wedding cost of things that you will have? We talked a little bit about that in the previous question to hear about like costs and things like that, and just kind of getting an idea of the things that you'll be paying for individually and things that family members will be, putting in the cost and stuff. And so yeah, hopefully you guys can talk about that because that is so uncomfortable. Money is always so uncomfortable, but if you don't start planning for it in some way before you get to when that money is due for things, then you can forget it. Like it's not going to make for a good time, okay? All right, let's take a breather before we get to question number 7, our last question. All right, question number 7. Are you both ready to talk to the family? The father, the grandfathers, the uncles of the bride about paying for the ceremony and reception. This definitely was spoken about in our very first stage of growing up, like at 14 years old, that fathers, uncles, grandparents, the men in your life were going to step up and be saving for your wedding day. Now, this is for any of his daughters, any of the father's daughters, okay? So for his sons, their their bride to be will have to talk to her father, right? So she'll have to talk to her father. Basically, it's the bride's father, the father of the bride, grandfathers, uncles, people like that who need to step up in this area. I'm seeing a lot of times where people are excited about the wedding and the proposal and the engagement and stuff, but they don't know who's paying for anything. And this is just traditionally, like I said, you could do a more untraditional style when it comes to finances, and like you guys can sit down and be like, well, we're just going to pay for everything ourselves. And if you have the money to do that, then like do it. Don't listen to my advice, right? Don't listen to my advice. I'm just letting you know that like majority of the time in the past, parents, families didn't just sit back and like allow their children to pay for their own wedding. Like the whole village came together and paid for the wedding, okay? If I want to be real, like they paid for the engagement party, they paid for the wedding shower, like they were excited to do these things, okay? They paid for the rehearsal dinner, they made the rehearsal dinner, okay? And so It's important that literally one of the biggest expenses that you're going to have is the wedding ceremony and the wedding reception. And that's why so many people aren't even having them anymore. They're not even having them. Granted, also in the olden times, they just went to the courthouse when marriage became legal. They just legal as far as the government. They would go to the courthouse. A lot of people were doing that, and so that really cut down on costs for the ceremony. And then the reception, they just would go, back to their parents' house and eat and have a big feast. So just remember, gentlemen, you do have a place in the wedding planning process. That it's not just about the bride, it's not just about the groom, and financially, it's definitely not just all on them. And that's why it's good that if you need to sit down with a mentor, a counselor, and talk about these things, ahead of time, so that when we get to that day, it's not such a, where do we get the money from? What are we going to do? And it's not such a shock that she wants a very expensive wedding, or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's not the one that wanted the expensive wedding. Maybe you wanted the expensive wedding groom to be. So it's important to talk about it now, because any day he can propose, any day, and that's so exciting. I know with us, we were literally oh my gosh, you could just feel it. You could just feel it. We were literally so stoked, and we just couldn't wait until that day that it was this is it. We're getting married today. We couldn't wait. And so we knew that at any moment also that he would propose, the engagement would come at any time. And so I hope that this video has been helpful to you guys in sitting down with questions, asking each other these questions, and taking the answers seriously. Okay? And so we'll have some more things to discuss before the proposal, but we're getting there. We are getting there. So I hope you guys are enjoying this journey, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, lovebirds.
Lights, camera, action, baby, strike a pose. Phones and cameras out, just watch it all unfold. We're the stars of the show, ain't no need for filters. Living life through the lens, capturing our thrills. Put away your phones and cameras, let the good times roll. Our content creators got it all under control. From weddings to events, parties, travel, and brands, we're living the paparazzi life. It's all in our hands. Lights, camera, action, we're ready to go. We're professionals, don't you already know? From TikTok to Instagram, we're taking the lead. Content creator, we're planting the seed. Get ready for the social media explosion.